more crazy interruption, and all you nuts are going into detention.
I think that's important.
Oh, really?
Welcome, everyone, to a new edition of The Screaming Room. It's October, and we have something very special planned for you that Mark concocted for all of us, so let's get right into it.
So what I concocted was this. We all grew up with sitcoms and other shows that we have watched, so I said, why don't we take our favorite Halloween or horror-themed episodes, we all chose one individually, and then we'll do a Screaming Room episode. That's kind of what we decided. So we're doing it especially for you and for the month of October, because we've always said we love doing fun stuff for the month of October. My episode was first, and I have chosen the Boy Meets World episode, And Then There Was Shawn.
When this boy meets world,
which is a parody of the Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer series. For anybody who's been living under a rock since the 90s to the 2000s, Boy Meets World was a show on ABC that ran from 1993 to about 2000, about a young coming-of-age story about a guy going through elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and essentially living his life. This is arguably the funniest episode of Boy Meets World in existence, so it was really easy for me to pick this one. Tiny bit of backstory within this season. The two main characters, Corey and Shawn, are both best friends. They've been best friends their whole life. Corey is dating this girl named Topanga. Loved her whole life. They eventually, later on in the series, get married, and then, through other shows, have kids and grow up in life. But in this particular sense, they have just broken up, and I believe Shawn had just broken up with his girlfriend, Angela, so Shawn is very upset about the current state of things. Shawn is in the middle of class, and there's a lot of, Shawn is very upset about those two breaking up, so there's a lot of disturbances. Shawn causes quite the ruckus because one of their classmates asked Topanga for a pencil.
Hey, Topanga, can I borrow your big pencil?
They're not divorced, Kenny. It's just a trial separation. I know what borrow a pencil means, okay? Nobody's borrowed more pencils than Shawn Hunter.
That randomly changes in size. Goes from a smaller pencil to a bigger pencil, but that becomes more important later on.
Fucking drew a mark.
That's a really long pencil.
It really is.
They eventually get detention by probably one of the best characters in the whole show, Mr. Feeney, who teaches them throughout the entire show, who is essentially the moral compass of the entire show, and also has some great one-liners.
Why is Shawn so obsessed with you two?
I don't know, but he's almost taking it harder than me and Corey.
We'll return to the young and the restless right after this word from Hewitt. And here is the word. Shut up.
And then some weird stuff starts happening. Basically, they find themselves inside of a horror movie.
This doesn't make any sense.
It does if you've seen as many horror films as I have.
They're in detention with Kenny, and then all the main characters, Angela, Corey, Shawn, Topanga, and so on and so forth. Then at one scene, the blackboard goes up, and then it says, you're all gonna die, or something like that.
I got intense.
Angela screams, and she screams the entire episode because she's the screamer.
Yes, girl, I am the screamer around here.
Eric, who is Corey's brother, and Shawn's half-brother both show up. They had become roommates and friends, so they go ahead and add some more comedy to the mix.
Something horrible is about to walk in that door right now.
Eric.
Blackboard.
So the characters try to figure out what's going on. Through the course of the episode, Kenny dies because, as the characters joke, none of them are going to die. They're all the main cast members.
Our soon-to-be first victim. Me. Why me?
Well, Kenny, it's certainly not going to be any of us.
Also, Eric screams, "They killed Kenny!
They killed Kenny!
We get a couple more really, really good scares, a couple more good laughs. Feeney eats it.
I knew it was you all along. What's the big lesson? What were you trying to teach us?
They killed Feeney!"
Oh my gosh! They killed Feeney!
And then the janitor eats it, who, you know, we all thought was the killer to begin with.
Angela,
Yeah.
you sick of screaming?
Yes.
And don't look in here.
There's like 15 retainers in there!
Yes.
Oh, me. Okay.
And then we get a very special guest star. Jennifer Love Hewitt shows up.
Dun dun dun. Dun dun.
Excuse me. Killer!
Which I just found out in the trivia that Will Friedle, Eric, was actually dating her at the time and then asked her to be on this really funny episode.
They were also in a movie like a year beforehand, I believe.
Trojan
something.
Trojan War.
Sure. They eventually end up in the library.
When did this school get a library? Every day's a new adventure, isn't it?
Where Jennifer Love Hewitt eats it by being trampled by books, death by book, or books.
There goes Jennifer Love Hewitt. Death by books. Death by books. Cause logic.
And then she's about to reveal who the killer is to Eric, and then Eric also gets killed by books.
It's too late. I think I know who the killer is.
Oh, save your breath, Feffy. There'll be plenty of time for that later.
Eric, I'm dying.
Oh, right. Okay, then maybe you should...
I caught a glimpse of the killer just before the books hit me. The killer's...
Which I always find hilarious because the amount of books that were pushed over and the amount of books that ended up on top of them is completely different. Completely different. Jack, who is Sean's half brother, kind of freaks out. He says, "I can't make the rent. No."
He paid half the rent. Now I can't afford to live in my apartment anymore. Wait, if I can't afford to live in my apartment anymore, then I don't want to live.
And then he goes to attempt suicide. Angela stops him beforehand, and then they're about to come back in from the windowsill, and they get pushed out by the killer.
Because that seems reasonable.
Sean is still your roommate. Together, you can make the rent.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's go back inside now. Thanks.
And they finally figure out who the killer is. Sean takes the head off, and surprise, it is Sean. And then, of course, it turns out in the classic horror mix-up, it is a dream. And Sean is in a dream.
Sean? Hey, Sean. Corey. You fell asleep. Fanny's looking at you like he's gonna kill you.
And then wakes up in detention. And then tells the whole class why, he's like, hey, let everybody go. This is actually my fault. And, he's explaining all this to Feeney.
You guys have been together since before I even knew you. And if you're not, then I guess I feel like there's nothing I can depend on. And it really makes me angry that there's nothing I can do to fix that.
And then Feeney says, well, I'm glad you learned something. And then they kind of just accept where they're at in life. And then the series, goes on from there.
Something bad happened, Mr. Hunter, but for the very first time, you're not responsible.
How come I feel so bad?
Well, because you're a troubled young man. I recognize that from the movie, A Troubled Young Man. You may all go. It's obvious that you've been punished enough.
So, Brandon, what do you think? You're not the biggest sitcom fan, so I'm very curious about what you said.
This is the only episode I've ever seen, and I saw it back when it first aired, and there were a couple bits I remembered, like the pencil going through the kid's head, and the other kid saying, I'll always remember he was this tall.
We'll always remember he was that tall.
Because when he gets impaled through the head, he like slides down and the pencil.
Yeah, there's no blood. It just draws like where he died.
Yeah, I remember the song that would play when the lights would go off.
Here's a knife, here's a gun, there'll be fun for everyone. Death is on the menu tonight.
That's a song that Zach hears in his head all the time.
Mr. Feeney.
As Jennifer Love Hewitt showed up, and the one kid was like, "Don't tell me you're not the killer because I won't believe you. I'm not the killer. I believe you." And he just starts making out with her. I remember that.
Killer! You're the killer! And I know you're gonna tell me you're not the killer because you're beautiful. You think I'm gonna believe you, but I'm not! It's just like that movie, Killer, Killer, You're the Killer, and I knew you're gonna tell me that
I'm not the killer.
I believe you.
Wow! Eric is awesome.
I have no idea who any of these characters are, though. So it's like I kind of picked up a little bit of the backstories, like the breakup and everything.
Yeah.
Like I have no idea, but as far as their personalities and everything, I have no idea. I did recognize a few names in the credits, though. Will Friedle, I know him as the voice of Terry from Batman Begins.
Yeah, that's true.
I recognized Ryder Strong's name. He was in Cabin Fever. That's what I know him from. And then there was also Matthew Lawrence. I know him as the little kid in the Tales from the Dark Side movie.
Also one of 3 of the Lawrence brothers. The first time I ever saw him was in Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad.
Superhuman Samurai.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yep.
That's another 90s show.
Yes, indeed. One of the Power Ranger knockoffs. So now that you've seen this a second time and kind of going in cold of knowing none of the characters, what do you think? Did you have fun?
It was fun.
Okay.
I don't think it was as enjoyable for me as it was for you guys, because like I said, I have no idea who any of these characters are. So a lot of what I found funny were like direct references to the horror genre.
Okay.
Like the horror movies they would reference would be something like, it's going to be the person you least suspect. Like in that movie, the person you least suspect. So it's stuff like that.
The death of the janitor signifies the end of the last of the obvious suspects. Just like in the cult classic, The Last of the Obvious Suspects.
And there's Brendan.
But I think probably the biggest laugh for me was we'll turn around and there'll be a shadowy figure run by that none of us will see. They turn around with their backs facing the camera, and then the shadowy figure runs.
Just runs right in front of the camera.
That was fantastic.
Well, what's gonna happen next? First, there'll be some strange shrouded figure creeping behind us that none of us will see.
That's probably my favorite part.
I dig that. My favorite part, 100% though, is when Eric rips the phone cord out and he's like, "I can hit you with the thing," and then he answers, and you can't hear the killer on the other end, but you can just hear him go, yeah.
That's a great idea because when we find out who the killer is, we can hit him with this. Hello. Oh, hey, it's a killer. Yeah. Alrighty. Goodbye. What did he say? Was he mad? He said what all killers say. He wants to come here, he wants to kill us, wants us to wait right here.
What do they say? Same thing that all killers say. He wants to kill us, wants us to wait right here. Run! What an idiot! I'm curious though, like, I know you're not the biggest sitcom lover and everything else. Like, is this something that would make you, would intrigue you to watch the show or maybe catch a couple more episodes?
Not really.
Okay.
Like on my own, no. But if I were to watch it with like an episode here and there with people, or if it's just on TV and other people want to watch it, it seems like something I could at least tolerate and watch.
Fair enough.
It doesn't really seem like something that I would go through 7 or 8 seasons on my own.
It's up there.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well,
now maybe if it were 7 seasons or 20 plus episodes, that's not something I really have any interest in going through.
Fair enough.
On my own.
When the spawn meets world, spawn meets world.
but at least you wouldn't turn it off though. So that's a positive note. And that's actually high praise coming from Brendan. He's not the biggest sitcom fan, so that's pretty high praise. So Zach, what were some of your favorite parts? Because I know you have a history with this show.
Yeah,
you used to watch this.
So whenever Feeney banters with Corey, I always love it. Corey and Shawn, it's always friggin' hilarious, especially at the beginning of the class. There's that one moment, it's just like, look, if you're gonna make a friggin' joke, can you at least do it when I'm not staring directly at you?
Mr. Matthews, when one mocks someone, one should wait until they're not looking right at them. I'm not my regular seat.
I love Feeney. The fun piece of trivia, though, there's actually a reason why Shawn and Eric are very rarely in scenes together, because they actually can't be in scenes together. Because they laugh so much, they ruin so many takes.
I can see it.
They can't be in a scene together. But yeah, Eric's always a win. Feeney's always a win.
Yeah. Shawn's always a win as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Shawn, Eric, and Feeney are comedy gold.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, this is a very, very fun episode.
This is like the most memorable episode for me. I remember watching this as a kid, and I'm thinking, this is dark. Like, for a sitcom episode, like, you know, they actually had real blood and stuff on the chalkboard when it says you're gonna die. I'm like, wow. People getting pushed out of a window. You don't see that type of stuff. It's always just like comedy, or it's lighthearted dark, or in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you'd get the serious dark, like real family problems and stuff like that. But in this one, no, it's just outright murder. Which I'm like, holy crap, that's awesome.
But it's stream murder, so it doesn't,
murder is murder.
And
it was done very well.
This is true. And also too, I've watched this is Will Friedle's favorite episode that he ever did on the show. Absolutely loves this episode, and actually several of the cast members have said that this is their favorite episode. This is their favorite episode that they filmed. Because they were allowed to improv so much. It had a good script on it, but there was a lot of funny lines that were improv and everything else. I think Corey improv your favorite line, which was they always know that he's this tall. Eric did the basketball thing and the dun dun dun.
Oh my God! My basketball's gone too! No, it's not! I got it! Oh, good.
There's a bunch of the cast members have said that they loved filming. This is their favorite episode to film. Not necessarily their favorite episode of the whole show to watch, but to film, it was their favorite episode.
It's definitely my favorite episode of the whole show. It's also the most memorable one for me. And again, if you didn't choose this one, if you didn't call out this at the beginning, I was definitely going to choose this one.
Yo, absolutely. Yeah. You know what? And this is a show that actually means a lot to me. I've watched this show. I've gone through it twice. And it has its problems when you're going through it and everything else, and this is definitely, I wouldn't say it's not my number one, but it's definitely my top 5 of my favorite episodes, but I would say it's the number 1 funniest episode of all the episodes. So, and there's more serious ones that are in my higher ones, like the last episode is really emotional, so it's probably one of my favorites. So, this is great. And actually, too, I was telling this is only for I'm sorry, Brandon. This is only for the real Boy Meets World fan. There was a transition with Eric going from kind of a playboy kind of guy to kind of a really weird, eccentric guy. You got Eric right in the middle, in this episode. He was right in that transition, and it was perfect, exactly the way he was doing it. So yeah, this is a really fun episode. I highly recommend doing it. Watching it. And it was a great choice for me.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of fun.
Super fun.
Indeed. So, Zach, final thoughts?
Fucking love it. Squirrely Wrath all the way.
Brandon.
I'd watch it again.
Nice. High praise. As Nicolas Cage would say.
Like I said, not really a sitcom person, but this was... Because I'm just not a fan of that style of show.
I get that.
And you'll see from my pick, I chose a single camera sitcom, or this is more of the multi-camera. It's just that style has never felt right to me, even as a kid. Except for Seinfeld. Seinfeld is the strange...
I don't get how that's the one,
Yeah, that's the one that works for me, which unfortunately that one doesn't have a Halloween episode. At least I don't
which is
think it
surprising.
does.
Yeah, no, this is fun. This is definitely, like I said before, this is one of my absolute favorites of any sitcom episode ever. So I highly, highly recommend it.
You know, you are really good at that.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode of The Screaming Room, the October special. We talk about our favorite Halloween or horror-themed sitcom episodes. You can, of course, check us out on all of our social medias.
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Slasher. And, of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can go ahead and stab that like button and smash that subscribe, and then click that little dingy bell to be notified every time we post amazing content. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Screaming Room, and we will see you next time on this October special of The Screaming Room. Bye, guys.
Virgins never die. All right. Thanks for saving me.
I'm dead. I'm dead.
Well, I'll get as sick as you can get without actually dying.
When the spawn meets world.